Hello and welcome to Game Day Scoreboard. I am Hakeem Dermish. This hour of CBS Sports HQ is presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Thanks for spending part of your Friday with us. Coming up, Ohio State head coach Ryan Day joins the show. Plus, we've got a pair of critical Game 3s in the WNBA playoffs. We're teeing off with a critical Day 1 at the Ryder Cup, where the Europeans dominated. What started out as a picturesque day at Bethpage Black turned out to be a disappointment for the Americans. Team Europe took a 3-1 lead in the morning session, including Ludwig Åberg and Patrick Fitzpatrick, defeating Scottie Scheffler and Ryder Cup rookie Russell Henley 5-3. In the afternoon session, the Americans rallied in 4-ball but came up short. Scheffler and another Ryder Cup rookie, J.J. Spaun, lost to John Rahm and Sepp Straka 3-2. Team Europe wins both sessions on day 1. Scheffler, the first reigning world #1 to lose both Friday Ryder Cup matches since Tiger Woods in 2002. At the end of the day, the Europeans lead 5.5 to 2.5, getting a half point. That final match was massive for Team USA when Sam Burns and Patrick Cantlay halved Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry. It's the Europeans' first lead on American soil after day 1 since 2004. And let's get right to the site. Welcome to CBS Sports HQ golf analyst Patrick McDonald, who joins us from the Ryder Cup. Patrick, give us your perspective. What did it feel like out there with Team USA struggling on home soil, but tying the final match was huge?
You know, the golf got good late in the afternoon. You mentioned that Patrick Cantlay, Rory McIlroy match. It seems like those two always seem to find the arena here at the Ryder Cup. And early in the morning, I would say, at Bethpage Black, a lot of the patrons, a lot of fans, most of the cheering was more jeers and boos against the Europeans, right? They didn't have anything going inside the ropes. They were cheering for the alcohol opening, the bars opening at 9 a.m., but they had nothing really with Bryson DeChambeau, Justin Thomas, Keegan Bradley trying to use that team as a spark plug, but unfortunately really fell flat. I think the Americans battled back well. They had their opportunities in that afternoon session to potentially tie this Ryder Cup, I believe. I think a few putts here or there, it could have been 4-4 heading into tomorrow, but unfortunately that second match with Bryson DeChambeau and Ben Griffin goes to the Europeans, and I think really the story of the day are those European stalwarts to me. I mean, John Rahm looked like the world #1 John Rahm that we saw in 2021 at Whistling Straits. Rory McIlroy looks like a man on a mission. And then you add in Tommy Fleetwood, fresh off that win at the Tour Championship, full of confidence, making everything he looks at. And it really, those three drove the bus for the Europeans, while the likes of world #1 Scottie Scheffler fell flat and Bryson DeChambeau were unable to accumulate 1 point in between the two of them.
World #1 Scottie Scheffler, not great for the second straight Ryder Cup. Patrick, what went wrong for him out there?
I would say there's two things going against Scheffler in this format in particular. One, match play can kind of turn into a putting contest every now and again, and these surfaces at Bethpage Black, they're a bit more flatter than you see on the week-to-week basis on the PGA Tour. Scheffler tends to struggle on those flatter surfaces, I would say. He tends to overread some of his putts, looking for anything in the break, and at Bethpage, unfortunately, that's not really the case. We saw that happen at the Renaissance Club the week before the Open Championship as well. We saw the following week at Royal Portrush, very undulated surfaces, having one of the best putting weeks of his careers. And then you add in Scheffler's game. He's a marathoner, right? He's not a sprinter. He's not a Usain Bolt. He's someone who's going to be on the first or second page of the leaderboard after just about every single round on the PGA Tour. In match play, it's a sprint. You got to get out of the blocks hot. You got to finish fast as well. And unfortunately, I don't think he had too much help in the foursomes. I think the order in which they teed off in foursomes was a massive mistake from Captain Keegan Bradley. Scheffler should have gone off on #1, playing the odd holes, playing a lot of those high leverage iron shots and tee shots on 15 in particular. And unfortunately, they got that wrong. And then on 4 balls, just ran into a monster in John Rahm.
Yeah, we're going to continue that theme of second-guessing Captain Keegan Bradley, because that's what we're going to do. You're a manager of a team, you're a coach, you're a captain, you're going to get second-guessed. Do you think Cameron Young, who knows this course very well, should have at least played the morning session over somebody else?
It's very easy to say that right now, and we heard kind of game of telephone in the media center that Captain Keegan Bradley planned on sitting 3 of those rookies, and a lot of the eyes were kind of going, wait, what? Are you sure you want to sit those guys who are the most informed heading into the Ryder Cup? Statistically, behind Scottie Scheffler these last 3 months, his best players have been Russell Henley, J.J. Spaun, Ben Griffin, and Cameron Young, and then it's all the veteran experience. I'm actually shocked Keegan did this, just given his own playing experience. You go back to Medina in 2012, Keegan Bradley played 4 sessions with Phil Mickelson, right? And I think it's shocking that Cameron Young didn't play even alongside J.J. Spaun, and sliding into that third group of Collin Morikawa and Harris English instead. If you look at the optimal pairings for Team USA, Collin Morikawa, Harris English, dead last of any combination of those 12 guys, it's those 2 players. They got boat raced by Rory and Fleetwood. Young should have been out there in the morning. I think Spaun should have been out there in the morning as well. And unfortunately, Keegan Bradley's left answering a lot of questions right now.
To me, the morning session isn't as intense as the afternoon session. I think we can agree on that, right? Why wouldn't you send your rookies out there when you're not in a high leverage situation, right? Let them get some reps. And I know I'm talking big picture here and casual in those terms, but you're also talking about human beings, right? Rising to the occasion. And sometimes people will fall flat in those moments. They cannot meet the moment. And you sit here and you second guess, maybe Ben Griffin shouldn't have been paired. Maybe Bryson DeChambeau was carrying too much in the afternoon session. I'm curious also, too, and we know Xander Schauffele didn't light the golf world up this season, struggled a lot. But he was in the pairing that earned Team USA's only win in the morning session. He played solid enough. Do you think that benching him set a bad precedent?
I wouldn't say it set a bad precedent, but I was surprised Xander was not out there this afternoon, given, like you mentioned, he was a part of that team with Patrick Cantlay to get a point. He was statistically the 3rd best American as well, behind only Bryson and Cantlay in that morning wave too, and he's one of those guys who seems to rise to the occasion. We've seen this guy in massive moments. If you want to lean into the experience factor, which Keegan Bradley obviously wanted to do, go all the way in. It seemed like his chips were all scattered around the table, not really sure what bet to really hammer in. And you go to this morning, right? He had all the pageantry with Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Thomas. Well, Rahm and Hatton figured out that bag of trips. You go to the second one, he mismatches Henley and Scheffler. The third, Morikawa and English. Where did that pairing come from? And then the sure thing, right? The sure thing is Cantlay and Xander, and that's the team that comes through for you. I'm pretty surprised Xander Schauffele was not out there this afternoon. I think he has a lot of kind of pairings. He's questioning his pairings right now, and you saw it out there on the golf course, Hakeem. Luke Donald, cool, calm, collected. He let his players, he let his caddies dictate the pace, dictate the game plan, really play their own game. Keegan Bradley almost a bit of a micromanager during that afternoon wave, getting in guys' ears, really seemed a little bit desperate, to tell you the truth, and it's showing right now.
Last time a team won away from home, the Europeans at Medina in 2012. Here they are with the lead after day 1. I'm curious about your biggest takeaways for Team Europe and perhaps how the course actually benefited Team Europe.
You know, there's been this kind of talking point that Europeans are shorter and more accurate drivers of the golf ball. And I think that's true when you go back to 2012, when the Europeans consisted of guys like Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood and Paul Casey, and then world number 1, Luke Donald, who happens to be the captain this week. But a lot of the Europeans, pretty much all of them, now play primarily on the PGA Tour. They talked about it often in the lead up to this Ryder Cup, where yes, they are Europeans, but they honestly feel like they're very American as well. They're all American citizens for the most part. Shane Lowry's kids go to the best private schools in Florida. They all do. And so I think these Europeans are so assimilated to the conditions here in the United States where it's almost a flip, right? Green speeds. Europeans are very good on fast undulating surfaces. When you go to Europe, they tend to slow down the surfaces, grow up the rough, and Americans tend to struggle. They don't make enough putts. And so I think the course advantage here at Bethpage was never really going to be too much of a thing. You look statistically where the Americans have an edge. I would say they have better wedge players than the Europeans, but they weren't really granted a ton of wedge opportunities to day. And with the ball in hand, playing ball in hand, that really levels the playing field if you're able to find more fairways, which the Europeans were able to do compared to the Americans. So I think the course advantage is pretty even. You look at some of the drivers with the golf balls on Europe as well, with Oberg, with Rahm, with McIlroy, with Fleetwood. It's just wave after wave after wave. And those drivers here at Bethpage Black, it just sets up and opens the rest of the golf course up.
Home team has won 5 straight Ryder Cups. The U.S. needing a comeback. Captain Keegan Bradley looking to make some adjustments. He did call day one the first quarter, long way to go. I like that he used that sort of analogy to kind of explain, hey, we're going to settle in here. The good thing is, look, Team Europe can't win on Saturday because that would have been absolutely embarrassing. So getting that half point, huge. Getting a little bit of momentum. I mean, honestly, though, right? Like, if you're out there and you're rooting on Team USA, you're just like, I hope we just don't get our you-know-what handed to us. So who are you calling on day 2 here to step up? Maybe one player, maybe 2 or 3 guys.
It's pretty simple to me. It's world number 1, Scottie Scheffler. You have to have your big-time players show up in the big-time moments, and that's really been the bugaboo for the U.S. in Ryder Cups, even all the way back to the Tiger and the Phil days, right? Phil is ranked 3rd in Ryder Cup points, and he has a losing record. It's really just a volume shooter, not so much quality. Tiger Woods has raised the Ryder Cup 1 time in his entire career. These guys have just not shown up on this stage for whatever reason, whether they haven't been prepared properly, whether they just aren't really making putts like we've seen from Scottie Scheffler. So if your best player isn't playing at his best, it kind of matriculates through the rest of your roster, right? And so Scheffler needs to go out there. He needs to win a point early and often. He needs to do it again in 4 balls, because there's no way, if you're Keegan Bradley, you're benching the world number 1, the guy who's won 19 times, 4 major championships, the gold medalist as well. And so for me, it all starts from Scheffler, and if he gets it rolling in the right direction, starts to make a few 8-footers early in his round tomorrow, that should lead the way for the U.S.
Stars got to be your stars. This is how it goes in any sport, especially in the Ryder Cup. Patrick McDonald breaking it down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Patrick, thank you. We are all calling on Scottie Scheffler to step up. Again, he's the first reigning world number 1 to lose both Friday Ryder Cup matches since Tiger Woods in 2002. That was a Ryder Cup that the Europeans went on to win. And here's a look at the European wins on American soil in the last, 30 years. They've got 3 wins in the last 30 years. The last one was at Medina in 2012, and now here they are looking to win once again on American soil. They're seeking consecutive Ryder Cup wins overall for the first time since they won 3 in a row from 2010 to 2014.